Hello everybody. My next interviewee is Axel Koelsch. Axel is an accomplished expert in building successful professional services firms. He does this mainly through strategy, growth and optimization.
Thanks for having me, Bruce.
My pleasure. So, Axel, could you tell me a little about your history, your career history?
Yes, certainly. So my original background is in law. I have a German law degree, but found quickly I was more interested in how to create organizations, create systems, how to make things work better. And so from that went into studying of management and strategies, spent a few years at McKinsey in strategy consulting, and then went back into law, always looking at would you build a really great law firm? And that's what I've been working on for the last 20 years. First in global and strategy roles for Magic Circle firms, then in running national law firms, and most recently in a PE-backed enterprise to roll up UK regional. So I've been on a journey.
Well, I know from my experience you have excellent understanding of transformation and technology. So what are the main areas in law firms that you have been asked to improve?
So my approach has always been to come from that strategic perspective. So as to ask the question, what do clients really need? What's the best way of serving those needs in a way which generates profits for the owner of that business? And when you look at the three main levers around that, it's always quite simple. It is around people, clients, money. So what's a type of environment that will attract people, develop people, get the best career path? We've had our periods, the war for talent, where that is the key question that you have. A lot looking at clients. So from two aspects, I think, to look at that. Both how do I manage relationships with clients? That's been a topic in every single law firm I've worked with. But also, how do I create an offering which is really superior to clients than what my competitors can offer? Specifically in bringing together different elements of professional services. And the last one is money. Very simply, the productivity question. And I think you can boil down a lot of legal strategy, law firm strategy, to the question, how do I grow my revenue per lawyer, my RPL? In the end, quality of a law firm is often encapsulated in that one aspect, RPL. So in a way, I think it sums together a lot of that people and client question.
Thank you. In your experience, how does a modern law firm reach its full potential?
For me, it goes back to that question about understanding who you want to be. And if you can define, this is who I want to be, this is my offering to that client target market, then you can build an offering around that. I think the most challenged law firms are the ones who are not quite sure. So when a law firm strategy is, we want to be the preferred legal provider in our practices and countries of operation, you know they don't have a strategy. It's just a collection of people who have happened to come together. So, but when you do have that definition of who you are and what you stand for, then I've seen it, then clients come to you because they say, I've got a really big problem for my business, and you're the best ones to solve that problem. And when that occurs, your pricing structures look very different from others because people are really willing to pay, not for the time you spend, but the value you create. You get the best work, which then again attracts the best talent. And people will want to join your firm because they can be more successful with their skills on your platform than anywhere else. So for me, that really is the core of it. And it'll drive those other elements of people, clients, and the question we haven't talked about so far, technology.
Now, you have had quite an experience in reviewing and deciding in the purchase of law firms. What has been your history in the purchase of law firms?
So actually my very first job I got in a law firm and running global strategy function was to look at an alliance partner that we had and recommend whether we should move to a merger or not. And I think it's been a key theme in all the firms I've worked with, and to think through how do we grow, and is a merger the right thing to do? And I think I've probably changed my opinion on it over the years, because I've seen when you do have a clear plan and understand what you want to stand for, the service you want to provide to your clients, mergers can be good. And so I've been part of global mergers between US and UK headquartered global firms, done regional acquisitions, going to Scotland, opening up markets in Germany and France to country offices. But most probably recently, as I said, we're working on this UK regional consolidation. So actually, we're systematically looking at every single law firm in the UK up to 50 million turnover and sometimes above, and looking at, is this a good firm to buy? And it's an exciting journey. 2 more acquisitions currently in the pipeline, and are really looking forward to get them on board onto our platform.
Well, thank you. When you're assessing a firm of solicitors as a potential acquisition, what are you looking for?
So I think there's one really overarching aspect you're willing to look at, and that is quality, sustainable quality of the people and the work. And there's just no substitute for that. Good financial management is helpful, but you can always bring in. Technology is crucial, but you can also bring in. If you start off with weak quality of the people, you will never make a law firm that you acquire or merge with successful. So I think that is the overriding one. The second one, I think, is culture. So, and this is a really tricky one. Most firms are proud of their culture and are unable to express what their culture actually is. For me, what I've seen is that any merger acquisition means you will go through a transformation process, and people are disrupted, things change. There are slight cracks to what existed beforehand. And so if you start off with a weak culture, that's the point in time where things break apart. However, if you have a strong culture, actually it can almost be strengthened by it, because it reaffirms, if you do it right and you bring the right two organizations together, it reaffirms who people are and what they do. So quality and culture, probably the key things. On the other elements, I think it's a bit like buying a property. You've got to distinguish between something that is ready-made and perfect, something that's a fixer-upper, or something that's a wreck. Never buy a wreck, because it will take a lot more effort, a lot more time, a lot more money than you ever thought it would. And actually, I'm tempted not to buy anything that looks perfect, because all you can be is disappointed, and there'll be issues you didn't find. So usually, we actually try and find organizations which have quality and culture, but there's something else missing, something's wrong, they have a need, and our organization can fulfill that need. So I always look for an organization with an us-shaped whole.
Very interesting. What primarily determines the value of a firm of solicitors for purchase?
This is a really interesting question. Many of the metrics that we use to look at quality of law firms, financial profitability and so on, just don't work in the acquisition market. So when 2 traditional partnerships merge, it's like a marriage. You bring your 2 households together and you both live in the same house. So there is actually no initial allocation of value between you. It's just an arrangement about who gets what kind of initial allocation of profit share, but that will always be renegotiated over time. It's different when you do an acquisition, because actually in an acquisition, one party pays money to the shareholders of the other party, and they, after a period of earn-out, get the chance to walk away with that cash. So there are 2 ways I think have come across in the market in terms of looking at how you value that. One is around revenue. So you take the revenue of a law firm and you multiply that. And the revenue multiplier is between probably 0.5 and 3, depending on the quality, depends on key fee earners and robustness of the practice. And that's probably the more traditional one. What we find is, certainly in this acquisition market with external investors, that people pay a multiple of profit. So it's a simple equation. You take this year's profit and then by a certain multiplier. And that could be profit or EBITDA in the private equity world. And that multiplier is not fixed. So if you look at the values that are talked about in some of the sort of online directories, etc., you'll find a multiplier of 2.5, 3.5. But we also know that when you look at more standard private equity deals, people often pay up to 10 times earnings for a company. So the value that people will pay for a law firm probably fluctuates somewhere between those two values, depending on the quality, stability, and size of a law firm.
Would it be fair to say, though, if it's a fairly well-run firm, that multiplier might be something of the order of 4 times?
So 4 times is certainly a number that I think anybody selling a well-run business should aspire to. And I would add that's 4 times after you've added in the salary for any partners who are currently paid out of profit. I think that's the big error we need to get away from looking at law firm values. You cannot simply multiply your reported PEP by 4 and say that's what we get for selling out. You've always got to remember that you would also still want to be paid for the time and work you put in on an ongoing basis.
And that suggests to me then, if the level of the PEP is high enough to compensate the partners post-acquisition with a steady salary, then it is particularly interesting.
Yes. If you get to the point that the profit equity part of PEP is not much higher than what you pay someone a salary, then the firm is worth nothing.
So it seems to me that profitability is a very key factor.
So it's 2 of them. It's both profitability, and then I would say the multiple is driven by quality. So it's profitability and quality are the ones that drive the value.
And is that the quality of the people and the operational aspects, or the brand?
So what we will be looking at, and any buyer will be looking at, is how sustainable, reliable is that profit over time. Because essentially, if I think, well, I'm not certain how long this will last, or whether people might leave, or whether I have recurring clients coming back, then I will only pay 2 or 3 years profit for this. If, however, clients are happy and locked in, the business is well run, has little regulatory risk in it. If it is, say, technology enabled versus fully manual, all those things give you greater certainty around the future profit flow. So in terms of some of the measures that we think about in terms of improving the quality of the business can actually give you the double hit. They increase the profit that you have, and they increase the multiplier, and therefore giving an exponential increase to the value of the business.
That's very interesting. How important is the management and management culture, and how do you analyse that in a potential target?
So there are different models of growing law firms and buying and integrating law firms. I think one of the largest player out in the market is Knights. Knights has a very clear approach that says, day one, you become Knights. We do not need your management. We do not need your business service teams. You will be fully into Knights culture, processes, and structures. So I think when they buy firms, management and culture is irrelevant. We take a different approach. We believe that full-service law firms with depth, strength, and quality within a region work really well, and that they can be embedded both in terms of the business community, potential clients, and actually provide an environment in which people like to work. And therefore, for us, the quality of management culture is essential. We like to have firms where actually essentially nothing much changes on the ground, and where local management can continue to drive client relationships, drive business, drive growth, and look after people. Actually, even stronger, where we encounter firms, profitable firms, sizable firms, where we do not see a strong management team, we're not interested in.
Interesting. And Are there any tests that you can easily describe in assessing the management?
I think there's a simple and an acid test around that is do the remainder, or let me just start it again. There's a very simple acid test around that. Do the other partners in the firm believe in and support that management? In a professional services firms, people are your key asset, and therefore a management that has the trust of the people around them and has delivered good results and growth without people, that will be the management to back. And if you ask lawyers who work in a law firm, or sometimes even more reading people who used to work in a law firm, what they think of the management team, you very quickly get a good understanding of the quality that you will find in that.
How important is the use of technology in a firm that you might be considering?
So, and I'm not sure this is the answer you want to hear, Bruce, but in a way, I prefer firms who are not that good at adopting technology. And that's because when we buy a firm who's not that good at adopting technology to date, we have a very quick and immediate path to increasing profits that we don't have to pay for. There's a cost saving, there's an increase in effectiveness, and therefore the revenue per lawyer we can generate by bringing in good practice management systems, document management, automation of workflow, and AI. In firms where this is already in place, I'm paying for the profit and I'm paying a higher multiple. Strong and timely adoption of technology increases the value of your firm, which in the end is reflected in the purchase price.
That's very important. Looking at the law services area in general, how do you think the sector will evolve?
So when I talk to other investors in this field, they put law firms now into the investment category of technology-enabled professional services. And when I take a step back and think through, what does it mean? How does it work? Let's do that one again. And when you reflect on that a bit, technology-enabled professional services describes to me the place where we all want to get to, the place we need to get to for our firms to be successful. And technology-enabled does not mean an efficiently run back office. It means that the creation and delivery of your services embraces technology as a key aspect of what you do. And I like to compare it to architects. An architect who is only able to produce manual drawings is not someone I would work with. I expect my architect to be using computer software to develop, share, and deliver designs. That's the admin for me and the regulatory process for which they need to use software. I'm still paying them actually for their creativity, but they need to be technology enabled to really deliver the value of their professional service.
Okay, very well put. Well, Axel, I think we've reached our time. That has been a very interesting set of thoughts. I don't see that much written about this topic, and I think it will be of great interest to many of the people listening to these interviews who are thinking about the long-term exit plan for their immigration service practices. Thank you very much again.
Thank you for your time, Bruce.
Look forward to another interview in the future.
Thank you, Bruce.